All right, guys, welcome back to the Align Team podcast. Today we have Jeff Bonk on, who's an absolute dominant force in the Hoboken real estate market. And we're doing a lot of fun things together and kind of growing really a massive organization around agent development, going deep with the systems, the experience for the agent, the experience for the team leaders, and making sure that, we play all out. So we want to, get to know a little bit about Jeff on this, but then also get into like the nitty gritty of what we're up to.
Awesome, man. Sounds good. Thanks for having me, brother.
Yeah, thanks for coming
Happy to be here in this awesome office.
So how did Jeff and Red Bonk? You guys actually met as realtors, right?
Yeah, man. So I, in a previous life, worked in finance. I was working in Manhattan, in Midtown, small broker dealer, trading desk. The desk just went straight up there like, hey, Dodd-Frank's here. Business is going to go down. What you're doing is getting automated anyway. Cut the trading floor in half. I went to look for a new seat. As I was doing that, Mike Hearn, buddy, a friend of ours, said, dude, get into real estate, man. Like, there's an opportunity here. Just come on, let's get your license. Come work at Remax with me. I was like, all right, well, I'm looking for a job. Let's do that. Walked in, first day, met Red.
Right.
We're friends. We're just hanging out. Both of us were just single and just like having a good time. And then next thing you know, we're like 12 years later, built a business together, 2 kids, like the whole craziness and everything that's happened in between. So it wasn't my plan to stay in real estate long term. But like before kids and before like having all these obligations, we just ran around, did open houses all weekend.
Yep.
Played golf and went skiing depending on the season on Tuesdays where there was nobody there. It was amazing.
Yep.
I was like, I don't think I really want to go back to the other way where I'm working like crazy all week and then off on the weekends and crowded golf course and ski mountains. So it just like naturally happened. And we looked around the world. We saw people were making a lot of money that I saw not taking the business too seriously.
Right.
And I was like, there's something here, right? Like if those guys are making 6 figures and they're cool people, but they're not really doing this like on purpose, what if I put some business mind and like organizational structure, but teams were kind of becoming a thing.
Yep.
Right. So like I saw this opportunity essentially. And then we just, year after year, just kind of built it. Our first agent on our team, still with us today, Megan, she was a rental client of ours who wanted to get into real estate. And then we're like, we have these extra leads, like let's do something. And then it just naturally progressed. And then, 5 years ago, really became purposeful, start actually building a team, putting systems and processes and like really value stack in place. That got us to where we are today and got us to sitting here with you having a conversation about it.
And coincidentally, 5 years ago is when we went to EXP too.
That's right.
Which is where like, same for me too. I really started to get purposeful around that because I feel like what's cool with us over there is we're opened up to this world of people doing some pretty crazy stuff. And we talked about that mastermind, which shall remain nameless, that we were at yesterday. But we realized we were the smartest people in the room.
Yeah.
Not actually, but point being is like using that as how do we constantly get around tables where we aren't the smartest people there. And that's what has been cool about where we're at right now.
It's weird, right? Because like, yeah, we're not going to, I don't want to sit here and say we're the smartest people in the room because we're banging on our chest, but we kept answering all the questions out of a team of 40 people in the room that all have very sizable businesses that most people would be like, wow, that's a room.
Right.
But that's because the rooms we usually sit in are like the curated top 50 of the country.
Right.
Versus the tri-state area top 20 or 30, right? So what really was my eye-opening to be like, we're really exposed to some crazy ideas and people in our environment here at EXP and, the organization that we're aligned with inside of it. It was cool. It was cool to be like, wow, like I'm saying stuff that's pretty, blocking and tackling and everyone's like taking notes and staring at me in a room that was pretty big.
And I don't want to get too EXP heavy on this. We never really do, but that is a big, like all we do is talk big business, corporate, top level management, middle management, systems, operations, who's empowering the agents, how are we holding them accountable in a way that, we're making sure that they're playing all out to the level that they want to play to.
Definitely.
Like that's the other thing too. And I found this with Dan Beer and Kyle Whistle early on is I tried to create all $20 million producers in my organization. And they were like, you're going to have a bunch of them. That's great. Yep. But there's also a lot of folks that sell 12 homes a year at 6 million that are
pumped
like
to do that.
That's
like what they want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we started to kind of scale around that as well. And that's really, for us, we know as broker owners, team leaders, anybody looking to scale an organization that, there's a lot more folks out there that can do 6 million a year in transaction than there are that care to do what it takes to get up over 20 million.
Yep.
And which you and Red too, kudos to you guys. You are, I think it was 87 million last year or 90 million in production.
85 down from just over 100 the year before.
Yeah. And it's in a down market too. And I just feel like that's what I always say to you is like, you're really a lot further than a lot of people get. So we see a lot of team leaders that are in that, we call it that messy middle,
Right.
where
Yep.
they're, let's say they're doing 15 million in production. Cause this is a journey I went through. It was a $9 million agent. I remember not everything was in my name because I was on a team. So I had to beg Keller Williams at the time to let me start my own team.
Right. I
and I
remember.
had to go back and actually show them where like, hey, I was the buyer's agent on this deal. And that I know the MLS shows that I haven't sold anything, but I did that.
I promise you, I know what I'm doing. I
Yeah,
did some business,
I
even though
really-
it doesn't show it there.
Guys, I really want to grow a team. Can I please have a team?
Yeah.
So then from there, I broke off and I remember it was like year 2, I think I did 16 million with Gold Farm. And we kind of started scaling from there. But it really, it got really hard at 46, 50 million.
Yep.
And that's where we see a lot of people stall out. And that's when we left. I left Keller Williams and I started looking about 6 months prior too for what is that solution? Who are those folks that are going to show me how to get to that next level? And then, you know, from there we kind of scaled above and beyond that. But what I do know from going through the experience is profitability starts to suffer.
For sure.
Mindset suffers.
Yep.
You know, even coming into a tougher market, which we were scaling, you know, for 3 of those years out of an easy market, and you as well.
Yep.
But then when it starts to get hard, and I'm just mentioning this because every team leader has the same thought. It's like, why don't I just dump the team and go sell? Because I'm really good at selling.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what exactly am I trying to accomplish here? Sometimes it feels
Yeah.
like, and you hit the nail on the head where like, one, we're worried about agent experience, right?
Yep.
Like that's where we come from because we were agents. We didn't, a lot of people in this world are coming and building teams after maybe a year selling real estate or maybe less, right? I hear stories of other entrepreneurs and business owners just coming in and saying, oh, I can get into this real estate team game, right? So we like really care about and know what we want to provide. And it's not easy to provide in a market that's down too, right? When profitability starts suffering, like when you come out of production and you give more of the business opportunities back into the team, there's things that you have to pick and choose what's going to make sense to be able to continue to provide and wear 11 hats too, like, and manage all those things, manage every, like getting pulled in every, I was just talking to Omar, right? And Omar's going through what he does with accountability, director of sales style. Director of sales is like, he sells real estate too, but director of sales is his charge, right? Like he's like owns that. If you're a team leader by yourself, you own that by yourself, and marketing and the P&L and the lead generation and all the way. And it just gets like, can I bring on the support financially because is the profitability there, or do I just handle this all myself? And you're stuck even like where we're at in the, you know, the $100 million range, we're still at that back end of the messy middle, right? There's still, it's still a lot of crazy things to deal with all the time, which I think, you know, doesn't get always told and talked about. On the screens.
Bill Pipes used to say this to me. He's like, who got you where you are is not who's going to get you to where you're going.
Exactly.
I actually think it's a Tom Ferry quote.
It's a book as well. What got you here won't get you there. Like, yeah, exactly.
But that was something too, as we were looking at our organization from a support side of things and, you know, turning over, you know, the folks that are sitting in certain seats and that too is like a lot of people, we spent 2 or 3 years on it and we're in the place right now and still, you know, looking for certain folks and figuring out, okay, great. As we scale, I know we're going to need another transaction manager. I know we're going to need a listing coordinator. We need marketing help. We need, you know, it's on our radar with what's going to happen. And we know the triggers of like when it's going to kick in. But a lot of these team leaders, they have to go in and they have to be the one who's hiring, firing listing managers. And they have to be the one who's hiring and firing transaction coordinators, marketing, all of that. And I know that they're not holding those folks accountable to the way that their job should be performed. And they don't, because I went through it, they don't necessarily even know what they could be doing better a lot of times too.
They don't know how those jobs should even be done.
Right.
Right. Like they knew how to manage like the 20 transactions they did, but they didn't know how someone should manage 200 transactions for their organization.
Right.
That's an entire new job you just had to learn.
Right.
And then hire someone, then train them, then hold them accountable.
Right.
A lot.
And even with that, like we have, you know, our whole checklist that exactly it's a corporate experience that's super scalable for listing and transaction management. And I truly believe it's the best product out there for, like, I keep saying it to you. I'm like, let them just run a deal. Let them run a deal. Like, you're going to like it. I'm telling you, you're going to like it.
Yep.
And we do that for outside agents too. So anybody watching, if you're thinking about joining our organization, I tell people, let us run a deal.
Yeah.
Let us show you, if you're a $15 million producer with no admin, or you're the one holding your admin accountable, let us show you how dialed in that process is stay at your brokerage, and I want you to feel an experience. And people are looking at, well, I don't want to give give up $60,000 of my split. And I'm like, you can't hire what we're going to support you with for that 60 that you're going to give up.
Without a doubt.
And you're not going to be able to manage it, and you're not going to be able to scale. So then where you and I are really like playing too, which is a lot of fun, and your voice in the whole organization is super important to me, because you and I think differently.
Right.
Where I'm more of like a, let me run really fast.
I'm like, slow down. We have to actually have a plan. Just a little one, not a big one, a little plan.
I have a plan. It just doesn't get that detailed with
I'm like, all right, a little more details. That's what I should say. I want more details.
I'm more of like, it'll work out. There's some really good people behind me. And you're
exactly.
like, I don't want to know how it's going to work out. I'm like, fine, go figure it out.
Yep.
So one of the things I said in like a recent mastermind was that a team leader is either good at selling homes, they're good at training agents, or they're good at recruiting. And I find that you can really only be like 2 out of 3 of those. Like I had to be, you had to be at, it's hard to be all 3 of those. For sure. And there's always going to be something that's kind of pulling. So for us, where we really geek out, or where I have those conversations with those team leaders, is like, come into our organization. I want you to be real, go make your 500,000, go make your $1 million, do your thing. That will attract agents into the organization, and you're going to need support. But I don't want you to then worry about having to train those agents and get them up to that $6 million or $12 million a year in production. I want you to hand that off, because the other thing too is a lot of agents, and I feel like you guys have developed some great agents in your organization, so you're an exception to this rule. But a lot of these agents, these team leaders, it's really them first, and then everybody else is just kind of like a neglected, hanging around sort of thing.
Get the leftovers.
You get exactly the leftovers. They get 8% of the team leader's time. They're not really
guidance, no training, no direction, no goal setting. And I think you hit the nail on the head. And there's even one layer right below that I think I was like, I'm really good at building SOI, doing open houses, building a farm, and going deep on relationship.
Right.
So when I'm building an organization, I have agents that come to me that want to cold call or prospect or work online leads. I'm like, we can figure that out. But now I'm going to learn a new way to do business to support you to do that.
Right.
I'm like, am I the right organization for you? I try to make myself, but like, no, if you want to come in and really build a business this way, that's what I know how to do.
Right.
So by really staying in my lane and do trainings there and educational there, and like keeping our business growing strong in that direction, and taking all the other assets and things that I could do and like things I've learned over the years and pouring them into a larger organization where I don't have to worry about FSBOs and circle dialing. Like, I have 2 people on my team that really love circle prospecting. Why should Dan Spitz not be teaching them that?
Right.
Why should I be teaching them that?
Right.
And Dan Spitz got someone in Chicago that wants to learn how to start a farm. Why is Dan Spitz teaching him that? Right. So like, there's this crossover power that I think we all try to be everything to everybody.
Right.
We wind up being nobody to anybody. And like, stay in your superpower, and you can't do that if you're trying to do it alone.
Right.
And that's where I think is the big aha and kind of like thing that really hit me, where like helping these agents, we have a bunch of really good agents that make money on the team. I had to hold their hand through each step of the process the whole way. I couldn't scale that by myself. Every time someone comes in, it was stop. And we have a great director of operations who's now working together with the bigger organization of Align. Like, all that now goes into play for a larger group of agents, allowing us, which is one thing I wake up every day. I want to have impact. I want to be able to say I actually made a difference with what I was doing today, and doing that in a small room versus a larger room with the thing I'm really good at versus the thing I'm kind of trying to figure out is like the exciting thing, of doing things together and becoming a bigger organization and continuing to kind of have larger rooms to talk to with the things that I actually know about the best.
It's funny too. So people will ask me, well, what are you doing that actually, like, where's the data showing up that you guys are actually good at training agents? And I'm like, well, out of the whole MSA of the whole tri-state area at Zillow Flex, for instance, we're the only one receiving over 300 leads that has the performance that we have, like 150% to market kind of thing. And I think that's really a good testament to what Omar's doing, and James Oliver and all those guys behind the scenes with getting these agents up and running, because there's actual data that's showing we can handle a large influx of leads, and we can actually still perform on that, and we can do really well. In the tri-state area, for instance, is the lowest, what I'm hearing in the United States right now for inventory, New Jersey specifically. So we can dominate with that behind the scenes there too. And a lot of that ties into our off-market relationships with other brokers and everything like that. From a top down looking at it, There's a lot of different things that come into play for that. But I find a lot of people don't have that depth. And right now we have 26 or 27 six-figure earners in the organization.
Awesome.
And I think that too is a really fun stat where people, like my goal, my vision is to have 300. That's like my next. So you talk about going fast.
Yeah.
That's all I focus on.
Yeah.
I want 300.
Exactly.
You want to be one of the 300? Great.
Follow me.
Let's talk. Let's
go.
play. Do you have a team that wants to have a bunch of
Yep.
six-figure earners? Great. Let's talk. And then the rest kind of works itself out because
Exactly.
we've got a great machine. But with that, that's really where I live. And I think that the proof is in the pudding. And that's one of those things where you and I were having these conversations and we're doing a lot of the same things. We're
Yep.
sitting in the same masterminds and we're figuring these things out together, but then we're paying people separately to do the exact same job.
Exactly. And we're holding the same meetings.
Yeah.
We're holding the same meetings on the same day at the same time with two different sets of agents. It's like, what's going on here? And I think the other side of it is like, we're going through a lot of changes in the industry. So me trying to figure out how we're going to work with buyers, you trying to figure out how you're going to work with buyers, us probably calling each other 10 times, sharing notes. How are you training your team? What are you guys documents are you making? And then us dividing again and having to go deliver that separately and retrain our agents on how to work with buyers is ridiculous.
Right.
Like if you can get it, if you're in, excuse me, if you're in rapport, if you trust the other person, if you have a similar business mind and a similar business model you're trying to accomplish, 1 + 1 can truly equal more than 3, like 5, 7. Like it just makes more sense to do that. Otherwise, it's just ego that gets in the way. You know, and I think that's the exciting thing about what we're doing here and what you've kind of like envisioned as what Align is the HBB group is still alive and well.
Right.
And super profitable. It's going to become more profitable because a lot of the stuff that was being done under the HBB group banner is done more efficiently and cost effectively with Align.
Right.
So our agents that want X, Y, and Z, I don't have to go figure it out, pay for it, do it all. It's already being done at scale because there's a bigger pool. But our Hudson T, Maxwell, Northeast Hoboken market is now leaner and meaner and more effective. And we can actually bring agents who want to work that market really well into that umbrella, crush it, give them all that Align has to offer, give them all what HBB has to offer there.
Right.
And if you don't want to be in the HBB Uptown Hoboken area, cool. Like Align has its standalone agent support, agent value. This is just a different, if you live in this area or want to work in this area, where I was trying to fit a round peg into a square hole for so long, saying, yeah, look what we did in Northeast Hoboken. You want to work in North Bergen, we'll just figure it out over there. When like, it was really kind of specific to what we did there. And we figured it out and we did it well a couple times, but doing it at scale makes so much more sense. So like the idea that I could take now things that have worked well there, plug them into what the Align group has already built and the structure and the trainings and the classes and all the things that I could bring that know-how and into, right, is huge. And then like onboarding agents and training, like we go back and forth talking about what's the best structure, what's the next iteration, how do we do that? I've spent a ton of time learning that. We've built out a million things. We haven't had the time and the bandwidth and the people power to put it into play. Right. But I got good ideas. Let's do it over here together. What can I help with? What can I throw into the pot? What kind of opinion or direction can I kind of, throw into the room? And that's like fun because now that idea is actually getting put into play rather than just living on a spreadsheet somewhere and never actually happening because I'm wearing 11 hats. Yeah. I wear one hat, HBB group, just that local little market, and then boom, second hat. Brett, what are we working on? What can we do together? What's our next big project that we can impact?
And that's the fun thing where we can really go deep and dominate with like your highest and best use. And like our organization needs somebody who knows how to get 50% market share in their buildings. And like really what is the play around that? But I also think too, like what's funny is right now your follow-up boss is being audited by Omar, our director of sales. He's identifying gaps and like instant opportunity for agents and figuring out, okay, how do we really get your agents so that things are not slipping through the cracks and that they're earning more and thriving.
So Red goes to me the other day, hey, what's up with that ISA department we have? And I was like, we don't have an ISA department yet. And she's like, all right, because you've been talking about it for about 4 years. And she's like, Brett has an ISA department. And I'm like, yes, do you know Brett has like one of the only successful ISA departments that I ever have heard of in the whole industry? And I talk to like all the top people in the industry. And she's like, yeah, maybe we should have them calling our leads too. And I'm like, because she said, well, why didn't you ever do it then? And I'll be vulnerable right here. Like it's a tough lift. I know people that have great business acumen that have tried it a million times, failed. It's never been effective. They wasted time, energy, and money on it. And I just had too many other things on my plate to get to that one,
Yeah.
knowing how steep of a mountain it is.
Yeah.
So Omar's in there looking at it. I'm sure we're going to walk out of this podcast and he's gonna be like, dude, like we can squeeze 100 million in sales out of this in the next 12 months. I see these many opportunities. That was never happening if it was living at number 5 on my list.
Right.
Or the HBB business, the Hudson Tea business was going to suffer. So I can take my energy and my time off of marketing and building relationships and doing events and supporting that business to go build an ISA department by myself and figure that whole thing out. And I have 3 training courses on how to build ISA departments that I bought. Right? It's not that easy to do. You got to actually take the time and do it. So that's where these synergies again, 1 + 1 equaling way more than 3, right? It becomes there. And we were on the call with one of the ISAs that spoke up the other day. She's like, why don't I have someone calling behind my buildings? And like, so now we're taking the thing that we did really well, is taking something that you guys have, putting it into play potentially with that good thing that's already at 90% capacity and bringing it to 100%.
Yeah.
Picking up the fruit, the low-hanging fruit that we're not getting to,
right?
Because Red doesn't have time to bang the phones in that community, but if she did, there's easy business there to be found. So there's just so many things that make sense at economy of scale.
I don't even think that we have 2 AI bots too that kind of call behind the scenes too. So if the
know
leads
that.
have opted in, that's something we can.
Is it your voice?
No.
All right, because I know that's something that people are working on, like cloning their voices, and it's creepy to me. But I mean, it'd be kind of cool.
We actually went. I believe it's an Australian female, which I feel like is like more like we.
Is that like what data tested and told you was like the best?
Well, no, but it was just more so.
You just like Australian accents?
I listened to all of them, and I said, I think that this voice is the least likely to get hung up on in the tri-state area.
I don't disagree. When that lady in the room yesterday was speaking, she had a British accent.
Yep.
Like it just changed I was like, oh, who's that over there? Like it's somebody like different. Like it does engage differently than the normal, just local tone.
100%.
Smart. I like that. So that's fun too.
And then like to that point though too, for the team leaders that we're talking to, is like right now we have our whole boot camp being run by David Finale, and there's agents. They're not new agents. They're experienced agents that are selling homes, but they're new to our organization. And he's running through like let's connect with the sphere of influence. Let's get into this. Let's get into that. And then I think you guys have the coffee running right now too, right?
It's happening right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. 9 to 11. Yep. It's wrapping up right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just finished.
Just finished.
But to that point too, it's like, how do we as a team leader make sure that, when they're coming into our organization, that things are continuously running, things are leveraged out, things are happening, and then you can be in 2 places at once and still have the same impact within your, your database and your sphere of influence and everything like that. I find so many people too is they neglect things. Like let's use a single agent as an example. They get really good with their sphere. So then they go buy Zillow leads, and then they spend all their time over here trying to get those to perform, and then they neglect their sphere. So like you guys are doing a great job of continuously doing everything. And what's really important for what we're talking about here is HBB's going to continue to do what it's doing, if not even more, because there's more people to kind of tap into the toolbox for that Navy SEAL team. And then there's also the whole spillover where like we were down at the Red Bank office, which is being renovated right now. It's going to be beautiful.
Can't wait to see it.
Now you guys might move down there, or who knows?
Yeah, who knows, right?
You might move to the Poconos. We don't know. Never know with you guys.
Depends on the day.
Depends on the day.
And what's really going to happen is we're never going to leave the Hudson Tea, which is like, we're going to go here. We're not going there. We're going to go here. We're not going there. There's 20 years later, the kids are in college, and we're like, we're retiring back to the Hudson Tea, but we never left.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean that to that point too. It's like we have Hoboken with the brick and mortar office, and we've provided that overlay for the EXP agents, which I feel like a lot of folks are like, oh, you're cloud based. Like we even did that event in Asbury, and people were like, I didn't know you had an office.
Right.
I didn't know you had any offices.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's actually 65 licensed in the state of New Jersey alone. Just so you know, Real Estate Commission knows about them. You should know about them too. But for us, it's Red Bank, Morristown, Hoboken, Wyckoff's opening soon. Wyckoff or Ridgewood, we're still deciding exactly what that'll be. And then we have Chicago and Baltimore as well. So it gives us that, and Florida's on our radar. We actually just had, so when you expand with EXP, you have to name a satellite team leader. So Jen Schiff is ours in Maryland.
Nice.
And then we have Dan Spitz over in Chicago, and we just put Scott Mawson on down in Florida because he's licensed there. So what's cool about Scott Mawson is he lives in, I believe it's Cape Coral.
Okay. Is that West Coast or
West
East Coast?
It's like north of Naples.
Yeah.
And if or it could be
I think Cape Coral maybe on the other side. Is that Fort Myers?
Coral Gables then?
Coral Gables maybe.
Yeah, he's right by Fort Myers. It's Cape something by Fort Myers.
I go Tampa Bay, a little south, and then I'm like, it all becomes
all,
west coast of Florida to me.
If you live in Florida and you're listening to this, he's over in that area. But the reason why that's important to me is because with eXp Realty, he's the satellite team leader, which means anybody within a 100-mile radius of him can be on a quarter cap.
Right.
So only paying $4,000.
Huge.
Fort Lauderdale's within 100 miles of where he lives. I believe like Sarasota is within 100 miles where he lives. Naples is within 100 miles. Orlando's so it's. And
I'm learning things right now because I have 2 agents in Sarasota that are on our team under a different agent because they have to pay a half cap under that agent. They're doing a great job, and I don't have the energy to go build Florida. Right. I don't have the time, the bandwidth, anything. But this organization does. So I didn't even realize that was happening. That was on the radar. We have Kelly and Karen down there. We plugged them into the system now. They're, 5-10 deals they did last year together. It's probably going to become 20 or 30 once they have transaction coordination done, some marketing done around them. Like as that grows, it's like another thing. Like I tried to grow down there with them. Right. And I learned the TC stuff. We have our TC kind of knowing what's going on. But then that was about where I tapped out bandwidth wise. Right. So that's like just something I'm learning as we're sitting here at the table. And it's the idea of like having all those other opportunities to work with agents in different places, for me at least. Maybe this isn't for every team leader. Like I wanted to find ways to help and be impactful to more agents. Right. I came from a place where my broker at Remax back in the day is still one of my best friends, a huge mentor of mine. He built a 60, 70 person office in Hoboken. It was a tight-knit family. It was fun. The Hoboken is a little more just like the brokerages don't do that anymore. It's teams now. So like now it's hard to have that much impact in such a small market. Now we have the opportunity to do it at a larger scale, right? And I lost in our entire team's history, I've lost 2 agents that I really wanted to keep. Right. Both of them still close with, still good friends with. They moved to markets where they were looking for the Jeff and Red version in that market they moved to, because a lot of people move out of Hoboken, right? That's the gig. When you have kids, usually you leave, except for the crazy people. When they left, they were like, if you covered these areas and you knew the markets in those areas, like I would have never left your team. Right. But I want to go to someone who knows it locally there. And now there's offices there in those spots where those agents moved. Yeah. There's lead flow there. There's support there. There's like people in those markets who know them, who can give them what we were giving them in Hoboken. Yeah. So like those are the fun opportunities where they don't exist if you're in a silo by yourself. Yeah. Right. So I think that's something that definitely resonated with me.
The fun thing with like those areas where we are, if you're using like Red Bank as an example, is we can take that team that's like local and deep in that area and probably make them more profitable and help them with training and everything too. And then it allows that agent to then have a home if they want to move and everything like that. So that too is like so for instance, Jen Schiff opened in Baltimore or opened in Maryland outside of Baltimore. Jen Schiff, if anybody doesn't know her, she kills it. She crushes it. Huge. So like we knew that there was confidence behind being behind Jen Schiff there, which Jen's our CEO. So also it's her problem if it doesn't work well. And Dan Spitz in Chicago, who's just an absolute beast and plays all that. We knew, okay, great. Dan will make it work. Right. Like he will make this work. And that too, for us to open to like really launch hard in Florida is who's that person going to be? And that's who we're meeting with people right now too, where how can we had a really good Zoom with somebody in Orlando not too long, I think it was last week, Omar and I met with her, and identifying like, okay, great, who's gonna be the next Figueroa? Right. Who's gonna be, how do we get somebody that hasn't scaled to that level yet and then get behind them? And it really is. It's like using the HBB component of it. Like, how are you already dominating, doing really well? And then can we make systems better for you? Can we make your experience as a team leader better? And then add a whole nother vertical to that. Definitely.
And I think I shared this with you the other day where Red was saying, why does it take so long to drive 5 miles away? We should get a helicopter. Did I tell you about this? And the boys got on her side, like, yeah, let's get a helicopter. Let's get a helicopter. Daddy, why can't we get a helicopter? I was like, we can get a helicopter. I know how to work hard enough to get a helicopter. Yeah. I'll see you in 10 years. Yeah. Like so it's like, I know how to build a team. Yeah. I know all the steps, all the things that I have to do, but I'll see my kids in 10 years. Right. Or we could do it together.
Right.
Or we could do it in a way where the pie got twice as big, twice as fast, and I got a smaller piece of the pie, but I made just as much money, if not more, had bigger impact for sure, and got to spend time with my kids. And that's where like the helicopter thing always stays with me. We're like, do I need that helicopter?
Yeah.
No, not if I want to spend the next 10 years with my kids growing up.
Yeah.
But I know how to, but I don't want to do it. Yeah. Right. So it's like finding that middle ground and the world that you want to live in that balances you as well.
Yeah, and I think that too is something like, how do we get the Bonks a helicopter while maintaining quality of life?
There we go. That's our Matthew Ferry coming out of you right there.
That's our new goal. Which then I'm like, do you really want a helicopter, or would you rather have like a King Air, like
right? Yeah, let's just not need a helicopter.
Like an airplane with a turboprop, like let's have a real deep conversation around that.
Absolutely.
And then too, like the fun thing that we try to do, like obviously you guys are doing the HBB coffee this morning, and that's like super purposeful. Hudson tea, you guys dominate, kill it there. But then we have the 5K, June 22nd,
right,
which is, raising money for infertility. We have the summer camp coming up in July too, which I don't even know if I've talked to you yet about that, but there's t-shirt cannons, and we were at that hotels, and it's like a slip and slide, wiffle ball. Like we do a lot of fun things. There's going to be golf, there's hiking. So we just do a quick like July getaway. Everybody recharges. There's a band.
That's
awesome. It's going to be a lot of fun. And you guys actually have a house not too far from where we're going.
Yeah.
But which you're welcome to stay at your own house too. That would save me a couple bucks.
Well, it's also an investment property, Airbnb, so we'll check the dates if it's not rented, but we'll make it work.
We'll stick all of HBB in that house.
Yes.
No, but that's that's what we're doing. That's a lot of fun behind it. We have a Bergen County event. We did the Asbury Park event, which like purposely had that where it was heavy on the listing drive, listing driven side of things, and everybody's sticking to the schedule that was up on stage. We had some incredible speakers that I feel like a lot of the audience didn't necessarily even want to hear what they had to say, because it was more of like,
do your job.
Do your freaking job.
Make your dang calls.
There's no magic pill to this business. You have to talk to people. And you have to stick to a schedule.
No, but quick sidebar, we'll come right back. One of our agents came, and he's like, it was an hour and a half drive for him. He almost didn't come. I nudged him to come. And he's like, I didn't learn anything new today, but now I really know that you're not full of shit. Yeah. And then I got it too, because like all those people up there affirmed what you said, right? So it was an interesting thing you say. But go back to the events. That was a sidebar. All the events stacking up. I'll take over actually. Those are events I want to do that I don't have to plan, but I invite people to.
Right.
Huge, right? And here's the flip side of the coin, right? Coming from my team leader side of things, where those coffee events are super powerful. And Lori's sitting right over here. How many times have we been trying to plan coffee events for the rest of our team? Our team's just too small, too busy right now. You have another 40 agents, 50 agents that cover that area as well.
Yeah.
We have a playbook on how to do coffee events and how to make them profitable and how to build at least 10 connections from each one.
Yep.
A checklist of how to execute it and market it, how to talk to the coffee owner, what the benefit to the coffee shop is. And they do ridiculous amount for business. Let's roll that into a bigger organization across all of Hudson County and Jersey City and Hoboken. Let's have coffee events going every week.
Yeah.
For anyone who ever wanted to build a farm, that's a little piece of it to do in a place, right? And we've done, coffee events for a long time. Agents on our team will do them in the future. Yep. But now instead of one or two of our agents doing them over the next couple of years, we can do 20 of them next month if we just say that this is an important thing to turn it into the bigger organization. So we're getting the value from one side, bringing value in from the other side, and just finding, again, I'm going to say it how many times now, 1 + 1 equaling way more than 3, right? It's synergy. Yeah. It's exciting from both sides.
Yeah. And that's like even the giving back component. It's like, what if every market that we have, every third Thursday of the month is at a homeless shelter, or is at, like it's, that too is something that we're not doing today. We've done it, but it's not consistent. And that really is like something where like when we're talking with Emma, it's like, how do we drive this home so that that's just in the calendar? That's what we're doing. Like we shoot this content religiously, and that's very dialed in, and your coffee event's really dialed in. There's a lot of things that we're doing really well, but there's so much more that like we're looking for other folks on the leadership side of things. We're looking for other team leaders, other, $20 million producers that have deep spheres where it's like, hey, let's come in here, let's bring you in, and let's give you an identity where maybe you help us take over the charity component, right? Because we have the muscle, we have the masses behind it.
Yep. We all have these lists with like all these good ideas.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do we get more of them to come to life?
Yeah.
And I know it's not by staying in a silo and trying to do it all yourself.
It's by 1 + 1 = 3, right?
Who said that? For sure. No, and I think, it's something that you touched on before that I just wanted to circle back around to, was like coming from the opportunity for the agent perspective, right? So this, thought process of us getting aligned, pun intended, right? It benefits multiple places, right? It benefits me as a team leader, which we talked about, future agents, as which we talked about, but also it benefits the agents currently in our organization who now are open to more opportunities, more training, more marketing, more events to plug into, more lead flow, more transaction coordination, thoroughness. So back to those parallels again, we have really good transaction coordination as well. I want Ira to look at yours, see if there's anything that we can pull over and do in the HPB side, or just pull the whole thing over, or is there anything we're doing the HPB side that we can add in to the Align side and add some value there? So it's like it adds tremendous value to the existing organization, just not the future one, right? So, and I think when you can find something that multiple synergies, 1 + 1 = 3, are found like on multiple levels, like that's just like a home run. And it really, now it's almost, why not do something like this? Like, give me a reason this doesn't make sense other than ego. And that's the only one that's got to get out of the way. You know? So I think that's a cool way to think about the future of the business and the industry as well, which I think is something to hit on too, right? Like a lot of this is happening. We were on a call the other day with our EXP crew, and someone brought up that I think Zillow said that 2024 and 25 is the year of mergers of teams and acquisitions and mergers between teams, because for, you know, let's call it what it is, profitability is easy when markets are screaming. And when markets aren't screaming anymore, like you could still be profitable, but you're not as amazingly profitable. And then you start looking at problems, and you start looking at your leads. Who's calling the leads? Are they getting called? You're looking at inefficiencies. And that becomes a whole nother job on top of the 11 jobs you were already doing in the good market, trying to grow the team. And I think we're going to see a ton of this. I think we're going to see a lot of people saying like, I don't want to roll up the team because it's still profitable and I love the people I work with, but I also don't really have the stomach to continue to handle every single one of these issues. What's the solution? You know, aligning, bringing people together.
I love it, man. I love it. So I appreciate you hopping on, Jeff. This is a lot of fun. Man. I appreciate you aligning. And I think that we're going to have a lot of fun together. And
I do too. And I got to finish this up with a story. You don't know this story. I just told Red about this the other day.
Hear it.
It's a good one. So we're sitting in our old brokerage. Should we name the old brokerage? Does it matter? Schmillions, whatever it is. And Brett and I, like 6 years ago.
I don't want to get specific, but it rhymed with Schmillions.
It rhymes with Schmillions, yeah. So Brett and I are sitting in a meeting, of the leadership meeting in the room. And I knew you, you knew me. We didn't know each other well. I knew you were building a team. I was building a team. It was probably right around Dan Spitz, Andrew joining you. Goldfarb was like your right hand, I think. At that time, you guys were really, starting to build something. And we're sitting in that meeting. There was someone in that meeting who did something with a cupcake that like flipped it upside down and like made a sandwich out of it. And I stopped the meeting. I was like, what the heck did you just do? That was an amazing thing. That's not the story. This is a sidebar. Everyone was kind of looking at you going, Brett, like you're growing like crazy. And we're talking about the brokerage, but like we took a sidebar and was like, what are you doing that's working? Like, what are you doing? And you were like, man, I just find if you take consistent action from a quiet mind, like it's kind of not that hard.
Yeah.
And I said, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck him. Like, cause like I'm working my ass off over here.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't dislike him, but fuck him with that attitude. And I don't know if we bleep those out or I'll retell the story.
You can curse.
And I said, but then something right after that thought, I was like, I don't know why I feel this right now, but I feel like we're going to be working together and be good friends someday.
Yeah.
And then we went to EXP together. Yeah. I was like, oh, maybe that was it. Yeah. And like, then we just became more friendly and played golf a little bit together. I was like, oh, maybe that was it. And then I was like 6 months ago when we started talking about how do we get into business like more formally together, I was like, damn, that freaking 6-7 years ago in KW in that freaking office that we were sitting there in the ALC was like, that was a weird moment that kind of came to fruition. It's coming to fruition. So like that, I've just been thinking about that a lot lately. I think it's like kind of a crazy thing that actually like you were just so like it was easy. And I was like, screw that guy, man. Who does this guy think he is? But like, I like what he's saying, but screw him. And we're going to be friends someday and be in business together. So it's fucking weird how things come full circle, but.
Well, that's like, I see it, man. I see 300 six-figure earners. Like, I actually see it. There's no freaking doubt that that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And to your point too, is like, I found that, and this is through Matthew Ferry, who you guys coach with as well, is like being able to navigate these scenarios with a quiet mind. I say the only thing that can throw me off is my freaking kids. They are insane.
It's about to get worse too, bro. It's about to get worse, believe it or not, for like 2 more years, and then you could kind of start coming out the other side.
Yeah. But operating with that quiet mind and really just being like, just moving. Matthew Ferry, another quote for him. People overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 5. So I've always said I've beat everybody. The data just hasn't shown up yet.
Right.
And, you know, with what we're doing right now, with you coming on board, with the way that like we're all playing together, I'm like, dude, good luck. Good luck to everybody else.
I agree, man. It's fun. And just getting into business with awesome people like this moment here. I love all your leadership's awesome.
Yeah.
Our people all love your people. And I'm like, who else can we go find that just all love each other that want to do business together? It was like, that's a lot of fun.
And that really is the core of like what you're like. People ask me, what am I good at? It's culture. And like people are like, oh, what does that mean? And I'm like, I just bring people together. I bring the people, and I don't allow shitheads in my world. I always say I have no toxicity in my life whatsoever.
No, man, it's not worth it.
And I'm hypersensitive to it too because of like what I've done with Matthew. I can identify it from a very early stage in the conversation where I'll be friends with somebody, I'll keep them there, but they're not going to come into my world.
Right.
And that's what we look for team leaders, where we had, you know, at the event we just did, we had some great folks. Like I would love to be in business with them. That's what we want. We want like the people that, I always joke, the simplicity of it is, who am I willing to have a beer with?
Yeah.
And then people are like marketing companies are like, what does that really mean? And I'm like, you know, when you get invited to a Yankees game with somebody and you have to sit with them for 5 hours and you're kind of like, I don't want to go to the game with that person.
Yep.
That's not who I want on my team. I want the person that I'm like, oh shit, let's go to a Yankees
Yeah,
game, man.
we got the
This
subway
is fun.
ride on the way there. We're
Yeah.
going to sit together for a while. We got a long ride back. We got some time to spend together. So like, we got to like each other.
Yeah. So if you want to sit at a Yankees game with me or Jeff, that's a good way to get into our world.
Mets fans need not apply.
Yeah, no Mets fans. No, I think finale.
No. We're a team, sports team agnostic.
Yeah,
as long as it's not Boston.
If you want to have a beer with Jeff or I, reach out. It doesn't mean we actually have to get the beer. You just have to want to have a beer.
Right.
And that's where we'll start, and then we'll figure out how to glue everything else
Love
together.
it, man. Sounds good, brother.
Cool, man. Appreciate it.
You too, man.